Hey guys, welcome back to the Hyper Rocket channel. If you've been a part of the PC and tech side of YouTube for a while, you'll know that there's a lot of information out there, especially in regards to PC building recommendations, gaming mouse recommendations, the whole custom versus gaming keyboard communities, and so on. Although there are some larger recommendation videos for each of those major categories, I haven't really been able to find any one of a single video, discussing everything all in one place. So what I want to do is I want to make a video to summarize some of my thoughts, having some knowledge on each one of these categories. And I fully admit, just before we hop in, that my opinions are my own, and there will be plenty of people who watch this video who disagree with me on each one of these fronts. All I'm trying to do is give a good idea of where to start for those that are new to each section. So for example, if my list has an AMD option for a PC build, there might be a few of you out there who prefer the Intel price equivalent. I'm not trying to say that one product is necessarily better than the rest, but I am trying to give a recommendation on what can get most people to the end goal in a close to optimal way. So now that I have my full sort of thoughts out there, I'll just start to dive through the general format. For each one of these sections, I want to dive through a quote-unquote best bang for buck option for that specific category that we're talking about. I also want to provide a budget option for those that are looking in that direction. And then in addition, I want to also provide a full capability edition or some form of recommendation that goes deeper into performance if money is not really an object. So let's dive in. Let's start first on the PC building side of this. What I don't want to do is just start discussing, for needless sake, things that are not really relevant as far as like the actual performance of the PC. So I won't dive super into detail as far as like power supplies and things like that. But what I do want to discuss are going to be things like processor, RAM, and graphics card combos, as well as just overall pricing ranges that you can start to expect. Let's start first on the best bang for buck option. What I generally recommend is a CPU being a Ryzen 5 5500. A motherboard you'll likely need to pair with this around a B450 or an A520, something that can just get you in. And then a RAM kit, usually 16 gigabytes, a 2x8 gigabyte kit will do you just fine. Ryzen does benefit from faster RAM speed, so I would recommend something on the 3000 to 3200 megahertz speed. And then graphics card, sweet spot I think is actually the used market. Somewhere between an RTX 2070 or a 2070 Super I think will be a really good option. If the only thing that you're playing is Minecraft, I would also say GTX 1060s used are also a really good option as well. The price range I would generally recommend for this best bang for buck general route is going to be around $550 to $800 depending on which parts that you sort of select. The CPU, the Ryzen 5 will probably run you about $95, B450 or an A520 board will be about $70 to $80 or so. RAM kits will probably not run you any more than $40, but $30 is I think a pretty safe bet for cheaper RAM kits. For the graphics card, 2070s, 2070 Supers will probably run you about $200. I wouldn't pay much more than that. And then GTX 1060s will be about $65 as well. All of this is US, just for the record. Now let's talk about best budget option. This is an old technique that a lot of people have done over time, so this isn't anything brand new, but I still think that it's kind of cool that this same technique holds up to today's market. I would say the best, cheapest way to get into PC building, or PC gaming in general, is probably upgrading an existing pre-built. Just the individual components within the pre-built have gotten better over time as far as the price that you're paying. So I would probably recommend an i5 8400 pre-built. You can usually find these for about $150 or so. They do come with varying amounts of RAM and RAM speeds that go into these pre-builts, but I would probably just replace it as a whole, just for the sake of consistency. And also you can't really upgrade RAM all that easily at a cheap price for a lot of these builds. I would just buy another 2x8 gigabyte RAM kit for these, around $30 for that. SSDs have also gotten very inexpensive, so I just recommend a terabyte M.2 drive, something on the cheaper end. You can usually get these for about $40 or so. In addition, the power supplies within these budget pre-built options, they usually aren't very good to handle massive graphics cards, so I'd probably go for something a little bit lighter here. You will need like a SATA to PCIe adapter. You can usually get these on Amazon for about $10. And then I'd also recommend, probably on the cheaper side for the GPU, a GTX 1060. 3 or 6 gigabyte doesn't really matter. I wouldn't pay more than $75 for one of those. Bringing the total build range to about $300 to $350 if you wanted to do one of these pre-built options. Yes, you can go cheaper if you really wanted to on the pre-built, but I really wouldn't recommend doing so just because you would be sacrificing a lot in one of these directions if you wanted to do that. Max performance, especially for Minecraft, you're not going to need anything super crazy unless you're going for something absolutely absurd like 4K shaders or 8K shaders on like the highest settings, in which case, you know, I don't even think like a $4,000 PC will actually be able to get you a really, really great experience for that. So within reason, I would say the max performance build I would recommend is a CPU being like a Ryzen 7 7700X, usually about $320. You'll need a decent motherboard to pair with this. B650 or X670 motherboards are pretty good. $160 to $300. Unfortunately, those have gotten very pricey as well over time. RAM, you might as well go all out for DDR5. One way to actually future-proof your build is actually to go larger on this amount. So I'd probably do a 2x32GB kit. 64GB of RAM total of DDR5 will usually be around $200 or so. And then for the graphics card, if money is truly not an object, I recommend RTX 4000 series card. An RTX 4070 for about $600 new, I think is really, really good price to performance, even though it's an exorbitant amount of money to pay for a graphics card. Usually these builds will land about $1,500 to $2,000 large. As far as like the range is concerned, I would just surround it with good enough parts to make it worth your time. Again, if you're really trying to go all out on a PC build, this is obviously overkill for a Minecraft gaming computer. But if you wanted to use it for everything else as well and you plan on hanging on to this thing for years to come, this is not a bad option to go. Okay, so I think that wraps up the PC build side of this video. Let's start to dive into the keyboard, and honestly this might actually be the weakest section as far as recommendations are concerned, but I have a few strong opinions as far as how we can start to navigate this side of the market. Best bang for buck option. I definitely recommend getting a pretty good canvas, so to speak, for a keyboard and then upgrading it as you go. Something that has gotten actually quite a bit of attention on the positive side from a lot of keyboard enthusiasts has been the TechWare Phantom Plus or Phantom Pro. You can usually pick up the base side of this keyboard for $56, but as far as what it offers for that price, it's actually really good capabilities. It's a TKL layout. They give you pretty decent keycaps, comes with pretty good foam setup within for better acoustics, comes with pre-lubed switches, usually in the major variants that people are asking for, and it sounds really good out of the box, and it offers pretty good, you know, gaming keyboard performance as well. If you want to customize this further, I definitely recommend doing so. Die-sub PBT keycaps you can usually get on Amazon for $30 or so. Just find some in a variant that, you know, suits your fancy, so to speak. Also, CS ACO switches have been very good budget options for switches within some of these hot swappable keyboards. So I definitely pick out something on that end. Some of my favorites are some of the Ocean Blues for tactile fans, as well as the Jelly Blues as well. Some of those actually come pre-lubed, so keep an eye on those. For linear side, I think wine reds and rose reds have also gotten quite a bit of attention, as well as some of the milky yellows as well, so just keep an eye out for those. Usually if you're going for this best bang for buck option, the price range is going to land you between $56 and $126, so pick out something in there if all that sounds good. If you're going as cheap as possible for keyboard, frankly, for gaming performance, you can probably choose to cheap out on the keyboard and still be fine. I'd just pick something out that's mechanical. I think mechanical keyboards have gotten so inexpensive over the years. Ideally something that's hot swappable. So I'd pick out like a cheap 75% layout or a TKL keyboard with hot swappable sockets. You can usually get these for about $30 or so. I wouldn't pay too much more than that. Later down the road with these budget keyboards, you can always choose to upgrade them if you want to get into the keyboard hobby a little bit later on. So I think, you know, $30 should be a pretty fair price, especially if you wanted to get a hot swappable board, and that will future-proof you to a certain extent later on. Now let's go on to max performance. Again, I don't think I can have an easy time recommending really expensive custom keyboard builds to people that are not interested in the hobby. So I'm just going to give you a few quick routes that will get you most of the way there. If you're going for max gaming performance, I think if you're really concerned about movement and things like that within game, the Wooting 60 HE or the Wooting 2 HE are hands down the best gaming keyboards that you can get. You can pick these up for about $200 if you're able to get your hands on one. And then if you want to customize it further, I'd also recommend keycaps. Again, die-sub PBT set will usually run you about $30. Lube and other tools, if you're willing to go that route as far as customization is concerned, will probably run you another $25. So the full build will probably be around $255, $300 or so. If you don't care as much about the performance side for your keyboard, I would recommend the custom route. There are some kits that will get you most of the way there without really needing to do a whole bunch of work. So Keychron V and Q series will do pretty well, as well as the Monsgeek M series. Most of those will come in all of the major layouts, so you can pick out whichever shape or layout of keyboard that you'd like. And they're not super expensive, about $100 to $200 for the base kit. And then depending on where you want to go with keycaps and switches, you can either get these included within the fully built version, or you can pick these out yourself. If you want to customize keycaps, again, $30 for a pretty good die-sub PBT set. just pick out the color that you'd like. And then switches, these can actually run you up to $100 if you go for really expensive switches. Otherwise, leverage some of the Acco switches as mentioned before, or use the existing switches that come within the keyboard. If you are willing to spend a little bit more on the switches, if you're tactile fans, I definitely recommend Boba U4Ts, Holy Pandas, or Neapolitans. Those are all pretty safe options on the tactile side. For linear gang, I would recommend Novel Key Creams, J-Wicks, Gateron Yellows. Those seems to be fan favorites as well. Okay, that was quite a bit on the keyboard side. Let's start to dive through some gaming mouse recommendations. This is a little bit more of my strong suit. So I'm going to break this down a little bit differently than some of the other sections, but what I want to start to dive through is hand size as well as grip style as well. And then we'll also dive through just a couple of budget options, which I think are just absolute steals for the price that they're at. If you are a palm grip user, if you have a small hand, I recommend the Vaxi MP01S wireless. They recently released this. It's a little bit pricey at $120, but if this is your end game mouse, I think there's no reason to avoid this one. On the slight budget side for small palm users, I definitely recommend the VGN Dragonfly F1. This has gotten a lot of hype within the community, and it also comes with up to 4K polling rate as well, if that's actually of interest for you. A top tier gaming performance in a budget package, $40 to $60, and a really, really good shape overall. Very safe for many grip styles, but also for palm, just because of the centralized hump, I think this is a really, really good option. For medium to large size hands with palm grip, I definitely recommend the Logitech G Pro X Superlight still. They are coming out with a version 2 potentially, at least there are rumors for it, but this is still a really strong mouse considering everything. If you're able to get this on sale for about $100, I think definitely do so. That's a really, really good price even for this mouse. On the larger side, I would definitely recommend the Razer DeathAdder V3 Pro. This is a little bit pricier at about $130 to $150. Definitely a really good endgame mouse though if you're a palm grip user on the large handed size. This also has the capability for 4K polling rate as well. For claw grip users, if you have a small hand, definitely recommend the Ninjutsu Sora. It's a little bit small medium size, but I think this will also fit many of the small-handed claw grip users as well. And then my personal favorite for small-handed claw is going to be the Lamzu Atlantis Pro Mini. Also supports the 4K polling rate, and just very fantastic coding, fantastic buttons, fantastic scroll, really, really great side buttons as well. Also the thing just looks incredible. Probably my favorite mouse all around, so definitely recommend the Lamzu Atlantis Pro Mini. If you're a medium or large claw grip user, Lamzu Atlantis Pro, just the upsized medium version, I think is a very good option. And the Endgame Gear XM2WE, I think are very strong options as well for claw grip users. For small-handed fingertip grip users, Pulsar X2 Mini, I don't think there's too many things that come close to this. It's about $90, a really strong option. Otherwise, for medium and large grip fingertip, I would say Pulsar X2 is a pretty strong option as well. And then again, the Logitech G Pro X Superlight, very strong, just safe shape that you can use for many of the larger hand sizes with fingertip style. If for some reason you have gargantuan hands and you're just trying to find the best mouse that will fit whatever grip style that you can, I would just say the Razer DeathAdder V3 Pro is probably the largest top tier gaming mouse that you can find at the moment. So if you're like an NBA player, I would probably go for something like that. Finally, if you're just looking for any mouse that will get the job done and has top tier gaming performance and you're not opposed to going wired for your mouse, the Razer Viper Mini is a really strong pickup still. It's about $20 to $30. You can get it for less if you're willing to go used or if you find it on sale. So that's just an absolute steal for the kind of qualities that you're getting within the mouse. And then recently I've been finding the Cooler Master MM710 has been going for about $10 to $20, which is an absolute absurd price for any top tier gaming mouse. So if you're willing to keep the wire, definitely pick up one of those two mice and I think you'll be in pretty good shape. Alrighty, I know that wraps up probably a longer formatted video, but hopefully this is helpful for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.